Okay, we'll get started with the school board meeting of May 13th. First item on our agenda is a call to order and the Pledge of Allegiance. And for those of you in the audience, the flags are up this way.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We have, is Monty on the phone? Okay. We have Catherine on the line, on the telephone line today. Next item is the reading of our school board meeting norms. Jeff?
School board meeting norms. Number 1, be prepared. Number 2, be on time. Number 3, value and respect each other. Number 4, exercise thoughtful deliberation and conversation. Number 5, be professional at the board table and when visiting with the general public. Number 6, speak up when the norms are not being followed. And number 7, advocate on behalf of students and keep the community in mind.
Thank you, Jeff. Next item on our agenda is the approval of the agenda. I have one change. There's a duplicate in the consent agenda for hiring. Kennedy Hansen is listed twice. So if I could have a motion to approve the agenda with that duplicate removed, that would be great. Motion by Dr. Shab. Is there a second? Second by Jeff. Assuming a roll call vote, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion carries. We'll now move on to celebrating success, and we have our friends here from Lake Agassiz Elementary. So we'll let you take it away.
All right.
Angie, if you want to just maybe pause in between some of your kind of like sections, and then if any of the board members have questions in between kind of the designated parts, and we can ask them then. Thank you.
Okay. We are here tonight to celebrate a glimpse and give you a glimpse of Lake Agassiz Elementary School. I am Angie Jonason. I am the principal at Lake Agassiz. Cassie Reaver is our associate principal. And we're going to start us out, and then we have a team of members that are going to come up with different slides that they are going to share with us tonight. So we kind of have it in a format of starting with who we are, as a school at Lake Agassiz, letting you know a little bit glimpse of Lake Agassiz itself. I know that a lot of our schools, you have kids in schools in Grand Forks, some maybe at Lake Agassiz or alumni of Lake Agassiz, but we want you to see just our school and the uniqueness of us that makes Lake Agassiz Lake Agassiz. So we'll start with a glimpse of that and then get into who we are and what we're doing with our goals and the impact that we're seeing that it has on kids. So we'll get into our data near the end part. But we do have some interesting facts to share with you along the way. So here is a little glimpse of some of our staff at Lake Agassiz. We do have a large staff. We have 57 certified staff members and 58 classified staff members. We have a lot of part-time classified staff members. That is a hard position to hire for in our building, retain and recruit. So we have a lot of part-time staff. Our current enrollment is 386 students. So we're going to give you a little glimpse of a little bit more of that. Okay, and Cassie, I think you are up next with this one.
All right, so currently we have 21 classroom teachers with a median of 8 years of experience. We have 57 certified staff with a median of 12 years experience. With this data, we recognize the importance of nurturing new talent, as 43% of our classroom teachers have fewer than 5 years of experience. Recognizing the passion and commitment of our educators, we strive to create a culture of continuous growth and dedication. In addition, we continue to recruit UND students as staff members. Currently, 57% of our paraprofessionals are college students. Many of those paras are participating in the para-to-teacher path, and our hope is that they'll continue at Lake Agassiz with their student teaching and their education journey. Lake Agassiz has a very diverse staff, and we take pride in our inclusive environment. 18 staff members are proficient in more than one language, some of them speaking multiple languages. So on the slide, you can see the 16 languages and American Sign Language that are represented by our staff members alone.
A little bit now about our students, who they are. Some interesting stats that we wanted to share with you that we found in some of our data digging too. So if we look at our students that are sitting in their seats today, Monday, we have 84% of them started the school year with us. So we have 16% of our students that are transient, okay, that have come and left. So a big statistic to us, and that number didn't quite seem as high as we feel, as our classroom teachers feel. But when we really dig in to see that that really is 1 in 6 students. So you think of a classroom teacher in their classroom, about 20% of their class is new to them in the school year. But in addition to the new, we also have the students that have left us. So then we looked back at our numbers from last June. So just looking from last June, we have enrolled, and not counting our kindergartners because they are new students. So not counting our kindergartens, we have enrolled 124 new students since last June. 70 of them since the start of the school year. So we've had 70 new kids since the start of the school year between our 21 classrooms. Since June, we have unenrolled 97. So we've had 97 students leave since then. 53 of them were over the summer months, 44 of them were while school is in session. So as a classroom teacher, you may have 4 students exiting your classroom, moving on somewhere, but you might also have 4 new students coming in. So we had the analogy of, you think of the class composite that you have as a student, right, in your class. Your class composite has a lot of students on there that might not be with your class any longer, or may have just been there, like today, we had 2 new students start. So we think that 84% is just a very big eye-opening for us. It seems like a high number, but it is actually a lot of transiency that we want to make sure that we are aware of and meeting the needs of our students. Another stat, that other purple one, 56%, we looked at our current 5th graders exiting our school now to middle school. 56% of them have been at Lake Agassiz since kindergarten. So that was eye-opening to us too. So when we look at our data and our proficiency and our students, we're looking at it, we need to look at it, how we have been looking at it this year is differently, that we're looking at where our students are proficiency-wise, but then we also, you'll see in the upcoming slides that Michelle shares, of following students that have been with us too from one year to the next, because that gives us the information on our instruction, and if our instruction is making the impact on students that we are intending for it to make. So we've got a lot of layers of looking at our students, whether it's our students that have been here year after year or our students in general in a class. Mr. Berger.
Just one quick question.
Yep.
Would you say that 84% is typical or atypical for your building?
For our building, I would say it is typical. We looked at numbers a couple years ago, and we noticed that we had roughly by the end of the year about 110 in and 100 and some out. So in the past, it has always been pretty even. It's still a lot of ebb and flow in the building, but our class numbers have stayed pretty even under that cusp. This year we have a little bit more in, we'll talk about in the future slides, of becoming an ML school. So we've got some more coming in that way and less leaving, which is a wonderful thing. So, okay. And then looking at right there, that's kind of a nice segue into our ML program. In January of this year, we became an ML school. We did have a lot of students that would qualify for ML that denied those services because they wanted to stay at Lake Agassiz. They didn't want to transport to a magnet school, one of our ML schools. So we've had some already in our building that now are getting serviced, and we've had newcomers come to Lake Agassiz that can stay at Lake Agassiz. They don't have to be bused somewhere. So we have more than 20 students, and even them and themselves, we have them speaking 15 languages, and some speak 2 or more. A couple of them speak 4 languages. So it's been an amazing boost to our building to be serving those students and letting them stay at Lake Agassiz. Okay. Let's see, our next one here. Our next one is one of our big targets these past couple years that we have with also our student liaison paid for with title funds. But we have a lot of students with attendance needs at Lake Agassiz. 24% of our students are at risk for critical absenteeism, which means that they have missed 10% or more of the days that they are enrolled, okay? So we are very much, you'll see in the incoming slides too, what we're doing to make an impact on that, to get our students in the seats more consistently so that we can work towards proficiency and growth for our students because they're in front of us every day. We also are a free and reduced school, Title I school. Our free and reduced numbers are 65%. And in the past, the district, we've always looked at, what percentage we were at West and Eielson when I was an admin out there. And we'd always knew what our percentage was that allowed us to be a title school. But recently, since coming to Lake Agassiz, we've dug a little deeper of how much of that is free and how much of that is reduced, because that tells us a lot about the needs of our families and the barriers they may face. So if you're ever looking at free and reduced, it's a good thing to dig a little deeper and see. With us, 55% of our students qualify for free, and 10% qualify for reduced. So that is some of our obstacles that we face that we are very motivated to help our students with and our families. So a little bit about our demographics as well. This is more live for us with the Lake Agassiz and the Grand Forks Public Schools. You'll see Lake Agassiz is purple, Grand Forks Public Schools is green, and then just in comparison to North Dakota. We thought it was kind of nice to have you look at Lake Agassiz versus other schools in the district, but also then as a state. So we do take a lot of pride in being more diverse than the other schools in Grand Forks, elementary for sure, and across the state. So if you can look at our breakdown of races across there. We also present our number of multilingual students. And one thing we do have is a high number of students on IEPs, which we've talked about as a staff too, that when you come from a situation of limited resources and lots of barriers in your home, that sometimes those challenges can come that way into special needs and just needing more assistance too with the learning process. So we do have a high number of special needs students in our building as well. So meeting the needs of our students again is a challenge, but something that we're excited to take on. Okay. Looking at our goals, just sharing with you what we'll talk about in these incoming slides, is that we've set goals for growth and proficiency. While we want all of our students to hit proficiency in their grade level, we also know that we start out, when you're looking at our statistics, we start out pretty low with our proficiency at Lake Agassiz. So we know that we're going to get the most growth and the most change for our students when we continue to focus on their growing and their growth, okay? A child may not be able to make benchmark that year, but every year, substantially, if they continue to make high growth percentages, they will eventually make that proficiency, and that's our goal for our students. So those are our goals that we have set. Okay, and now we have Danica. I think you are next with our support. I'll give you this in case you want to go forward. Okay.
Doesn't slide off. Hi, I'm Danica Smith. I am one of the elementary literacy specialists at Lake Agassiz. Kathleen Peterson is here as well. She's our other one that we have at Lake Agassiz. So we work together to help tackle some of the literacy needs at Lake Agassiz. We try to meet the diverse needs of our students, and it's the heart of what we do. Our Title I funds do allow us to have a larger team, and each member contributes to meeting the needs of our varied population of students. This allows us to meet the needs of the students where they're at in not only their educational journey, but also their social emotional journey. So you can kind of see the little bodies on the screen or on your packets of some of the extra staff that Lake Agassiz is able to have and utilize to help our students. As a school, we've implemented a staggered, targeted small group support schedule, and that's at the bottom left of your screen. And this is to ensure that students don't miss their classroom time or their Tier 1 instruction. These students then who maybe need more assistance, they can also receive Tier 2 and Tier 3 support within that block. And that's something that Kathleen and I would push into their classrooms or pull students out to do, depending on the situation. This also allows other staff in the building to push in and support too, as schedules allow. Through our MTSS process, we implement a variety of intervention strategies, including UFly and Story Champs. These interventions are tailored to each student's needs. We use data-driven approaches by setting ambitious goals in STAR and progress monitoring weekly to analyze student growth trend lines, similar to the image you see on the bottom right corner of your screen. So in that specific one, the very, very light blue line is the ambitious goal. That particular student was making higher than anticipated ambitious growth, which is what we all like to see. These access to these materials and Renaissance STAR platform does allow us to make real-time data-informed decisions to track ambitious growth or adjust our instruction as needed. We do monitor this weekly and make necessary changes as it comes. And then I think this is our next one.
Hello, my name is Ashley Vingy, and I'm the Dean of Students at Lake Agassiz, but I'm also the AVID Site Coordinator for Lake Agassiz. So I'm going to talk to you with Nadine about opportunity and extension. So we have a commitment to provide opportunities for enrichment and extension, and that's evident in our diverse programming that we offer for our students. We have initiatives like Reading Intramurals, which you'll see a picture of in the bottom left corner, where community members engage in reading sessions with our youngest learners to enhance vocabulary, but also to foster a lifelong love for reading.
My name is Nadine Raymond, and I am one of the fourth grade teachers at Lake Agassiz. AVID guides our planning and follow-through of opportunities for students at Lake Agassiz through our House Council, which you can see on the screen, and other leadership opportunities for our students. They develop essential skills in communication, teamwork, and problem solving, empowering them to become agents of positive change.
So AVID is a system that teaches all students academic habits that they will need in their life beyond Lake Agassiz. Students learn about organization, study skills, communication, and self-advocacy. AVID Elementary gives all students equal opportunities to achieve their personal success. It's more than just about college, but more so about being ready for any college or career that they may choose. And for us at the elementary level, it's about being prepared for middle school and high school.
Is there a different slide for that one? Okay. We have two teachers, Mr. Hagan and Ms. Keller, who do a wonderful job running our VEX program. Students are able to dive into the exciting world of robotics, honing critical thinking and problem-solving skills while fostering collaboration and creativity. This year, they took a team of 3 to Worlds in Texas. In addition to these 4th and 5th graders participating in VEX, we have also added an Intro to VEX program for interested students in grades 2 through 3 to begin that background building for students that may become competitive in the program in grades 4 and 5.
In the top right, you will see a picture of a student's goal that they wrote. I went into classrooms in the fall and taught students the importance of goals, why we should write goals, and then the steps to create their own SMART goals. And so each student created their own SMART goal based on their fall screening assessments.
One example of how we create an environment that is excited about learning and growing is about learning and growing is our student, but also adult participation in Library ELBA challenges. 9 students and 8 staff members completed the entire ELBA challenge, which is 3 divisions and 28 books. 24 students and 9 staff members completed 2 of the 3 ELBA divisions. 371 students and 19 staff members completed Division 1.
Kaylee Nichol. I'm one of 2 instructional coaches at Lake Agassiz this year. And you've gotten to hear a little bit about what we do for students, and now I get to talk about what we do for staff. So at Lake Agassiz, we are very dedicated to ongoing learning and collaboration, which allows us to enhance our instructional strategies and improve student outcomes and growth. So the graph that you're looking at is data that was measured through an instructional survey that was sent to teachers twice this year. We sent it in the fall and then recently sent it again this spring. The scale was 1 to 5. Teachers could mark how confident they felt in different literacy areas that they teach every day. 1 was not confident at all. 5 would be they felt confident enough to model it for others. So you can see that throughout the year, teachers' confidence levels have grown in all areas, which was really great to see for us. So how did we get there? So some of the initiatives that we've prioritized this year is our early out professional learning community time with our teachers, where we're digging into our priority standards, proficiency scales, and really taking that dedicated time for teachers to collaborate, learn from each other, and refine their instructional practices. We have 13 staff members at our school that are letters trained, so that deep understanding of the foundations for reading instruction has not only changed the language that a lot of our staff are using, but it's also impacting our students on a daily basis. So back to the survey. I use this along with our leadership team in a couple ways. So when we looked at the data in the fall, we used that to personalize learning for teachers. So if a teacher scored low confidence in an area, we made a plan to work with that teacher and coach them through that area. Some teachers, we worked in multiple areas. So that was one way that we use that, and that's really just part of what we do and my job, along with some other people on our team, coaching teachers every day, helping make sure that they're equipped to teach students based on the latest research-based strategies. Another way that we used it is to match teachers for instructional rounds. So teachers that scored high in a confidence level, we knew those were going to be our hosts, people that could invite others in and observe them teaching. And then, of course, we matched that with teachers that felt low confidence in areas. And that really fostered a culture of peer observation and feedback in our school, which I felt was very valuable. Another thing to highlight in our school is that we have 6 staff members, 4 of which are up here today, that are trained under the North Dakota Teacher Support System as mentors. So we're supporting our new teachers, first year and second year teachers, moving forward to make sure that they are also equipped and feel ready for the classroom to help their students be successful. Moving forward, we are dedicated to continuous improvement, and we want to support teachers the best that we can because we know that's the avenue to supporting kids.
All right, so on the screen, you see a lot of different examples of our family engagement. So our commitment to family engagement and promoting learning opportunities extends throughout the year. We recognize the importance of family involvement in improving attendance rates. Last year, 9% of our students were chronically absent. This year, we are at 6%. Before school even begins, we host events like Popsicles and Principles, Hot Diggity Dog events, and Lake Agassiz Mustang Park and Rec meetup with our family liaison. Providing families with opportunities to connect and build community. Throughout the school year, we continue to offer a variety of events and activities such as RED events, our PTO events. I don't know where it went. Sorry. Now you messed me up. Sorry. Red events, PTO gatherings, game club sessions where parents can come and actively participate. And then most recently, we just did a culture night where everybody was invited and able to come. Additionally, we ensure that parents have access to valuable resources by promoting community events and community parenting classes through the NDSU extension offices, and we provide our literacy specialists during conferences and other events to make sure that they're there to answer questions. Our efforts also include regular communication through monthly newsletters and social media, which feature important school updates, community events, notes from our support staff, and important dates that we need to make sure that all parents are receiving. To reach every member of our community, we also go above and beyond, and we strategically hang flyers at local businesses for different events that we want people to know about, such as kindergarten registration, and a couple other key dates that we want everybody to be invited to. This ensures that the important information gets to everybody in our attendance area. Through our consistent communication and our access to resources like community parenting classes, we strive to empower our families to participate in their child's education, ultimately contributing to academic success and improved attendance.
I have a question. Can you talk about maybe just a little bit more about what barriers you're seeing for attendance, and then how does the social workers get involved with that?
So I think transportation is a barrier. Did you say others? Transportation definitely is a barrier. What else do you think? Yeah,
And I think our social workers becoming involved in that too, and our student and family liaison.
Okay.
We have students coming from, across the railroad tracks.
Mm-hmm.
It's not as easy for our students to walk to school, so that gets a little hard. If they miss the bus, they don't have a way to get to school.
Mm-hmm.
So we've offered to go and meet them and walk them in some cases too, if able. So I would definitely say that is a barrier. And I think too, for some of our families, just school can be an intimidating place, or maybe their own history with school has been difficult themselves. So why we do a lot of this, to try and build those relationships and that trust with our families, so that they feel comfortable calling us and asking for help in those situations.
I noticed one of them was every Tuesday in June, and certainly that's kind of an extra thing that you're doing outside the normal school year. And so these are really cool things to see for an engagement piece, not just outside or not just inside the normal school year or school hours. So.
And what we found is that a lot of our students don't have access to things in the summertime.
Mm-hmm.
They don't have a way to get to, in our park, we don't have baseball anymore and those types of things. So really, to get anywhere, they have to have a form of transportation to get there. Even our bike to school day last week, we didn't have as many kids with bikes. So that's for next year. We're going to do a bike donation day. So these things come as the year progresses too, but so that just that access to those types of opportunities can be pretty limiting. So we do a lot with our social workers and our family liaison and anyone else that knows about it, of trying to promote the scholarships that are within the city, between football, YMCA, the pools, those types of things. But in the end, we kind of run into that transportation piece.
Sure.
Just one clarifying question. I heard you say you saw a reduction from 9% to 6% in some metric relating to school connectedness or chronic absenteeism. Earlier, we saw a number 24% at risk. Could you clarify that? Are those two different metrics? Are we watching the numbers differently?
We kind of consider one in the red and some in the yellow. So that 24 is all of them on watch, but our real critically absent, that one has improved for us.
Thank you.
Yep.
Hi, everybody. My name is Michelle Shockey. I am Lake Agassiz's data steward and MTSS coach. I'm also a certified speech-language pathologist. My day-to-day role involves helping teachers collect and interpret standardized and classroom assessments, leading MTSS meetings for students with academic needs, providing literacy-based language support and enrichment during classroom intervention time, as well as some Tier 3 reading intervention. I'll speak to you today about the impact our teaching has on Lake Agassiz students. This first graph that you see on the left relates to comparative NDSA data within a specific cohort of our students. 38 of 58 NDSA eligible fourth graders returned to us following their third grade year at Lake Agassiz. So 38 of our current fourth graders were third grade students last year. Last spring, that cohort of 38 students was 11% proficient in NDSA ELA. That same cohort of 38 students is now 29% proficient. Last year's entire third grade, including the students who are no longer with us, were 10% proficient, and this year's entire fourth grade, including students who are new to us, is 22% proficient. While the growth for all students was significant, the students who stayed at Lake Agassiz for both third and fourth grade showed more growth than their transient peers. The second graph on the right talks about SGP. SGP is student growth percentiles. And student growth percentiles help us understand how students of all achievement levels are progressing with their learning. Student growth percentiles, or SGP, is an approximate growth rate provided by STAR based on national growth data for students, regardless of their achievement level. For example, a current student at Lake Agassiz scored in the 6th percentile on their STAR reading test in the fall. So they were proficient, better than 6% or less students in the nation nationally. This student, same student, took the STAR reading test again in the fall and scored in the 12th percentile. The student's rate of growth is 80 SGP, indicating that his rate of growth was higher than 80% of his same age peers nationally, who also scored in the 6th percentile in the fall. SGP is measured in 3 categories: low growth, which is less than 35 SGP, typical growth, which is 35 to 65 SGP, and high growth, 65 plus SGP. You can see, based on our grade levels, kindergarten showed 29% typical growth and 56% high growth, which is wonderful for us to see. First grade, 27% typical growth and 44% high growth. Second grade, 35% typical and 35% high growth. Third grade, 29% typical growth and 38% high growth. Fourth grade, 27% typical and 39% high growth. And fifth grade, 23% typical and 38% high growth. Lake Agassiz's objective is to pursue high growth for students at all achievement levels, helping those students with lagging skills close the gap that much faster. Regarding lagging skills, there is research that supports that what reading comprehension assessments like NDSA and STAR truly assess is background knowledge. Students at Lake Agassiz have a higher likelihood of more limited background knowledge than schools with fewer low-income families. An example of this, on the 4th grade NDSA science test, students conducted a virtual experiment with watching a ping pong ball being pushed by waves. Students who have never experienced waves outside of the media, such as in books or movies, have a natural disadvantage over students who have visited the ocean or who have maybe gone camping at the lake. Just an example of how background knowledge can impact testing scores. Some ways we combat this at Lake Agassiz are through robust language usage, quality read-alouds, and opportunities for real-life experiences, such as yoga, game club, and culture nights.
All right, any questions for Michelle? Because she's got all the data knowledge. She can explain it so well. All right, so... Oh, Dave, go ahead.
Not a question, just a thank you. This type of data really helps us as a board as we look at our district goals for growth. And so glad that we're seeing the whole picture, including some of the, as us math nerds say, some of the important nitty-gritty stuff. So just a thank you.
Yeah, great job. All right, so a little bit now too on our other impacts on students. We are lucky at Lake Agassiz. We have 2 music teachers. One of them happens to be part-time, and the other part of his time is, the percentage of his time is our band instructor. So this happened a couple years ago. We knew it was a great way to get more students in band and also keep a staff member in the district from having to travel between buildings. And I happened to find a very qualified candidate who wanted and was very talented at doing both. So we are lucky to have Mr. and Mrs. Boyer at Lake Agassiz, and Mrs. Boyer teaches full-time music and Mr. Boyer teaches music and band, which has really impacted the band numbers that we were pretty excited about. He went to the All-City Band Concert about a month ago and realized that 1 in 5 of all Grand Forks School District's 6th graders in band are former Lake Agassiz students. So that was a pretty neat stat for him to come back with. That's in that middle box, one of our students there. And over to the left, you can see Mr. Boyer leading his all band, which we can barely fit in a room. So the retention from 5th to 6th grade, which we oftentimes have students drop from band, is 54%, which is 10% higher than the district average. So we're trying to help our students in all angles and all ways to find those things in school that make them want to continue to be in school and learning. So we always want them to have lots of things that keep them involved. Our next one is VEX. That's a picture of our 2 coaches, Ms. Keller and Mr. Hagan, with our 3 students that were able to go to VEX Worlds this year. A pretty awesome accomplishment for them too. So our VEX is a very big program. And when it comes to so many of these things that we're sharing with you, but also all these people up here speaking, it comes to the students, right? But it comes to the staff that are here providing what they provide for these students above and beyond what they do on their daily, right? So some of our students shared some of the impact on them. We wanted to ask them, what do you love about Lake Agassiz? So you can kind of see a big word mix there of all the things that they have picked. Some of those words might stand out to you. And yes, our quotes around the sides are first graders and kindergartners, and those are really their quotes about what they say about Lake Agassiz. So we've got some pretty profound and proficient students at our school being exposed to a lot. So we talk about the impact on students, but we also want to recognize the impact on us. Here's some quotes from some of our staff. If you talk to a teacher who is dedicated, like the educators we have in our district and our school, I think the one quote back that you hear people say, what are the 3 reasons to become a teacher? And the things that just hit you wrong are the June, July, and August, right, adage. But I think if you look up here, we kind of have that set in 3, that really the reason our people, our students, our teachers come is because of the students, their colleagues, and the families, the connections we make. So those 3 things are a little bit different from our perspective, and kudos to everyone at Lake Agassiz for all they give to our students every day, and to each other and our families. Those 3, right? Keep coming back to those 3. Okay. If you want to follow us on social, there we are. Cassie's our big social guru. She's the one that gets everybody out there. One of the ways that we hired so many UND people, too, is our social media. So any questions for us? We went long. We're sorry. We really tried not to.
Just a comment on a question. Dr. Shab and I get the privilege of taking care of a lot of new Americans, and I can tell you, I hear so many good comments. They don't know how to pronounce the school. They never can pronounce the name, but it took me 20 years too. But they just love the school, and not necessarily the building, but the staff in there. They really do. I hear it all the time from the patients that come in. My question is about collaboration, and not within the school, but I'm curious about collaboration within the district. And I know all schools are different and unique, but you know, I see it in my own profession, the collaboration I have among all people all over the country. What's the collaboration like with the other elementary schools about this? Because Phoenix may have solved one problem, or may have a certain way of doing it that really would be great at your school or other schools. So what kind of collaboration do you see among the elementary schools in town, and when does that occur?
I think one answer to that might be depending on the role. You know, admins, we do that kind of work once a month as elementary team. Our reading specialists and their opportunities to come together. So kind of by job description, they have their times that they do that. Probably the least for our classroom teachers to be talking with other teachers around. But that is something we have talked about as admins and teachers of how we can get back to more of that. I'm looking around thinking we do a lot with AVID. Ashley Vinji is our AVID coordinator. They meet at least once a month with our other elementaries, and then another one with Valley and Central too, to kind of do that, to solve those things and get things rolling faster and more efficiently. So I think from each component, we also have the CIT, the curriculum department has started new collaborations this year too with our reading specialists, our coaches, our principals too, to get us. So probably the one that's the least, I would say, is at this point is our teachers. And we're fortunate at a building that we have 3 or 4 at a grade level that they can collaborate, but to collaborate with other schools. You're right, that's something that still is hopefully going to continue to happen for us.
Well, and wouldn't you say those teachers probably get a lot of that collaboration district-wide through all the various specialists as well?
Yep, they sure can.
Okay, thank you.
So I wanted to ask one question and then one kind of flippant kind of observation. Well, I'll do that first. Cream, how does cream measure in there to what they like about Lake Agassiz? I don't know. Maybe you don't know, but it's a word on the box, and I was like, I'd like to know how they know cream in Lake Agassiz.
Well, there is ice up there, so we're thinking if they put a space in between it, then it goes about as 2 words, so.
I missed the word
Somehow,
ice.
somewhere,
Thank
they
you.
got ice cream. Maybe that was our popsicles in the park.
And that is PE for physical education. It's not pie that's misspelled either. It's
Yeah, I knew that.
Pizza made it on there.
So then my serious, serious question, I actually have a serious question and then a comment. The 50% paraprofessional staff are college students, and you have alluded to that. So it must be a revolving door, because if they're college students, they must be leaving or coming and going. Is that true?
Yep, so that's kind of the price and the pay, right? We have students that are really coming to us dependable and with a great knowledge base, but they might only be with us temporarily. However, we do have one teacher right now that's been with us for 2 years that started out as a student observer and then was hired as a para and now is a teacher. We have one of our paras coming back to student teach in the fall, so we're really hoping that this is a way that we can recruit people to and keep them, retain them in our building in one way, shape, or another, or at least in our district. So yes, that does happen, but we really hope that they'll continue to come as those freshmen. We have everyone from freshmen to seniors, and we have some people that work full-time and go to school outside of that too. So, yep.
I think it's a great pipeline, so to speak. And then the other thing that you didn't talk about that I learned from you was that long-term, or the sub. Now, I don't know if all schools have that, but I thought it was just really terrific, the sub that I spoke with you. And maybe just, I don't know how many board members know about your designated sub.
Yep. So they are called classroom specialists now. We didn't have them as designated subs before, but now they are classroom specialists. So I just want to make sure I'm using the correct term. So we are very, very fortunate to have them in our building because there are many days where we do not have substitute teachers picking up. So that is a morning email from all of us admins early in the morning of who's covering who. But we have these 3 individuals that are Lake Agassiz staff members. So they know our students, they know our routines, our safety measures, all of that, because they're with us every day. And then in the morning, I just say, you're Mrs. Raymond today, or you're Miss So-and-so today, and they know where they're going, and our students know them, and it's just great consistency all around. So a very positive thing. And I know you asked me, when did we start that? And I'm thinking it was just right after COVID. I can't remember the rest. It's hard to get subs, but everything was a blur. But we have them, and they are priceless to our building for sure.
Other questions from board members? Thank you very much for joining us today. It's a wonderful opportunity that we get to listen to what the schools are doing, and they're all so unique. And thanks for giving us a glimpse into Lake Agassiz today. So,
Thank you. Thank
You're
you for
welcome.
having us.
You're welcome to stay, but if you want to sneak out, that's okay too. Next item on our agenda is the approval of the April 22, 2024 meeting minutes. Do I have a motion for approval? Motion by Dr. Lunn. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Dave Berger. We'll take a roll call vote, please.
Palmasino?
Yes.
Lunn?
Yes.
Larson? Berger?
Yes.
Schab?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
Manley?
Yes.
Gockler is absent. Flynn?
Yes.
8 yes, 0 no, 1 absent.
Motion carries. We'll now do the approval of the April 29th, 2024 special meeting minutes. Do I have a motion for approval? Motion by Bill. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Jeff. Take a roll call vote, please.
Manley?
Yes.
Larson?
Yes.
Schab?
Yes.
Berger?
Yes.
Lunn?
Yes.
Palmasino?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
Gockler is absent. Flynn?
Yes.
8 yes, 0 no, 1 absent.
Motion carries. Well, now on to the public comment section of our agenda. I don't have any blue cards. Is there anyone wishing to speak in the audience? Okay. Move on to superintendent's recommendation for discussion. First item on the agenda is the K-5 library, K-5 music, and secondary music curriculum adoption.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. Thank you for having us here this evening. We have a number of special people here with us too to talk to you about our adoption. This adoption has multiple components. So tonight I have Nicole Crafting and Lorraine O'Shea, who you're familiar with. They're our curriculum coordinators that lead this work. We also have Jonathan Mayo, who will represent elementary music, Tracy Whalen, who will recommend our elementary librarians, and Jeff Seablum, who will represent secondary music. So I'll just do a quick review. Same slides that we've talked about before when we talk about adoption, so they should look very familiar. We'll start with the teams of people because none of these decisions are made in isolation. We look at them from multiple perspectives to ensure that we're getting resources that not only meet our North Dakota state standards, but help teachers do their best teaching and kids do their best learning. So our elementary library team is listed on this slide. I'll let you read through those. Our elementary music team is listed here. These are also in your board packet, so if you'd like to go back and peruse those later, you're welcome to do so. Our secondary music team. And then our process. So as you've seen before, we use this funnel. We start with the research and review process. We look at the North Dakota state standards, and then we look at resources and how they align to those standards. We then review them for optimal student experience and engagement. We look at the teacher materials. Again, do these teachers support the teaching and learning process? We also look for diversity and representation. We're looking for anti-bias curriculums and also curriculums that represent all peoples. We look at assessment. How do we look and review the documents that they provide to ensure that there are multiple forms of assessment? And then we look at overall scores. As we explore curriculum, what we start with again is alignment to the North Dakota state standards. So before we even get to the pilot process, if a resource does not align, out it goes. Then the selection process, this is where we go back to those teams and we say, okay, these align to the state standards, these piqued your interest, now let's pilot them in the classroom, let's give them a try. Outside of just looking at the box and make sure we're not just purchasing that pretty resource, these lovely humans are the ones that put them to the test. They put them in front of students and they try them out to make sure that they meet our needs. So I'll first turn it over to Tracy Whalen, and she'll talk about the library media specialists and their work.
Hello, I'm Tracy Whalen, and I'm here representing the elementary librarians. I teach in the library at Lake Agassiz. The elementary library media specialists, we see all students in grades kindergarten through 5th grade 2 times each week for 30 minutes. So it's a total of 60 minutes per student every week. We are asking that our ELBA reading program, which stands for Elementary Library Book Award, and the digital databases in each of the elementary buildings be included in the curriculum rotation. We feel that the ELBA program and the digital databases are our main resources and our biggest curriculum needs. ELBA is a highly successful program that helps students dive deeper into comprehension and expands their reading lives by exposing them to new books, multiple genres, and new authors. When students transfer between buildings, ELBA is a way for students to connect within the Library Media Center. 1/3 of our library media content standards involve personal literacy. Learners explore, select, read, and engage with materials based on curiosity, needs, and interests for personal growth. The ELBA program is the key component of meeting these standards. The ELBA books build excitement and energy within our students. These books are current, relevant, and engaging stories. The books are read aloud in grades K through 2 at all elementary schools and are used in literacy instruction. In grades 3 through 5, students are encouraged to read these books on their own. Nearly every elementary student is impacted through the ELBA program. Supporting the request ensures that equity in instruction and equity in access to our current and relevant books for each one of our elementary students. ELBA complements the upper strand of Scarborough's reading rope as it relates to language comprehension. With the implementation of this program, all elementary students in our district will read, make connections, and deepen their literacy skills. Another large section of our standards deal with information literacy, which helps learners inquire about, access, evaluate, create, and share information effectively and ethically. Having these digital databases for our students supplies us and them with resources needed to address these standards. Thank you for considering our curriculum proposal adoption, and I appreciate your time.
Any questions for Tracy before we go to the next?
I have just 2. As I know it, a parent of 2 elementary school students. One is in 2nd grade and one's in 5th grade. So our 5th grader has chosen to participate. Our 2nd grader, that wasn't an option to participate. So, well, except the read aloud part. Yeah. I know it how it is. Mm-hmm. What, if any, will change? Is it that some schools aren't offering a full curriculum, that they need more books for participation? What specifically to how it's run now will change?
Well, it will allow more books per building. Our budgets have gotten cut every year, mm-hmm. and to purchase the books is more than half of most of our budgets. And if you have enough books, more kids can participate more effectively. And we kind of worked as a team to make a fair but reasonable amount of books per student. So we did 1 book per 35 students of the titles we would need each year. And so we came up with that number to make it so it's equitable across the district.
Okay. I do know that there's quite a list for the books and trying to get into.
We also do work with the
books,
public library every year,
yep.
and they have been amazing support of the system, of this program, and they provide a lot of options for our students as well.
Okay. And then for the board's knowledge, being a one-to-one device district, these digital platforms, do they have a component that would allow students to take home their Chromebook or iPad or whatever and download books or have access to books on the device at home?
2 of those programs do have books on the databases, yes. Okay. And 2 of them are more articles and not necessarily books, but they're articles and information and facts and stuff. So,
Thank you very much.
any other questions?
Other questions? Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Next, we'll go to elementary music, and we have Mr. Jonathan Mayo with us.
Good evening. My name is Jonathan Mayo. I am a music teacher over at Kelly Elementary, and I'm also the leader of our elementary music PLC. So on behalf of our PLC, we thank you for your consideration in the adoption of Game Plan and Music Play Online. Music Play has been an outstanding resource for our elementary music classrooms. It provides a large amount of pre-made lesson plans organized by grade level that are easy to follow and implement. These plans incorporate our music concepts and skills in a variety of ways that reflect our current teaching, including singing, playing of various ORF instruments, folk dance, listening, and composition activities. What really makes Music Play stand out is its flexibility. Apart from pre-made lessons, teachers are able to house and customize lesson plans, as well as take songs, videos, assessments, and activities from Music Play's vast digital library and place them in a template that fits their classroom structure. Within each lesson, Music Play provides objectives and connects back to our adopted music standards. Music Play's assessments are engaging to our students and can be used in a variety of ways to gather data and help show students growth and understanding in the skills they're taught. Music Play Online is an evolving digital resource that is continuously growing and being updated with new activities each year. This keeps the program fresh and allows teachers to try new songs, games, and ideas in our classrooms. Apart from our elementary classrooms, the 6th grade music team is also looking to adopt Music Play. This simultaneous adoption enables vertical alignment to take place between our 5th grade and 6th grade students. Now, it's been an amazing privilege and joy to be able to work with all of our elementary teachers in our PLC across the district, having 15 teachers. We have a variety of different methods on how we teach music, and these are just a few of their quotes from Game Plan, which we piloted this year. One of our teachers has said, "Game Plan understands how to engage kids. It is not a sit and get curriculum. The writers have designed it so students are the ones making the music all the time. They also understand what teachers need. The teacher's process is outlined very clearly, making it possible to be consistent for teachers across the district. The teaching manual also doubles as a pacing guide to keep everyone on the same page." Another teacher remarked, "Game Plan has been a fantastic series and a huge support for my teaching this year. The lessons have fun, engaging songs that help challenge students' creativity. With an emphasis on creation and improvisation, Game Plan lessons help students play and do music more than just sitting and listening. I'd be excited to have the kindergarten through 5th grade series so that I can work on sequencing concepts throughout their elementary careers." Thank you again, once again, for having us today and considering the adoption of this curriculum. Any questions?
Any questions? I have one for the 6th grade component. It's my understanding that some of the 6th grade opportunities for music flip-flop with band. So there could be someone maybe in band opposite of general music. Would there be something for those students in this curriculum adoption? If they were just in band instead of the general music?
Yes, for Music Play Online, a lot of our concepts do cross over, so there is a lot of different activities that they can definitely use from not just in the general elementary classroom, but also in the band classroom as well.
Okay, thank you. Okay, thank you.
Okay, and next we have Mr. Jeff Seablum, who will talk about band, orchestra, and chorus.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Jeff Seablum. I teach orchestra over at Red River High School. I also serve as the music coordinator for the district. I'll talk you briefly through the materials that band, orchestra, and choir have looked at for middle school and high school level. Just a little thing about the materials. The materials that we're adopting or asking to adopt are pretty much for use in the large ensemble setting. So students who are in our classes, especially the band and orchestra students, will have individual lesson books. Those are the books that a student and their family will purchase to learn the individual techniques on their instrument. So it's not those materials that we're looking at. What we're looking at are the materials that a student would use in the classroom as either a warm-up book or possibly a group exercise book to learn independence in the ensemble, to learn how to play together, to learn how to play in tune together. So there's a bit of a difference between that and the books that they would use to learn how to play their instrument. Band is looking at sound innovations. This is a book that has existing materials do not exist in all the schools. Some of them do have these books in the schools, but they're worn out. They're just past their useful life. It's a fairly thin book that does wear out with time. This is a book that does teach some individual skills, but this is a book that not all the schools have at the time or at the moment. Essential Technique is a full band warm-up book. Central has these books already. They're quite worn out. Red River does not have these. So by ensuring that both high schools have this book, it would align the curriculum between the two high schools. Essential Elements covers materials that are not covered in Essential Technique in a way that the band teachers really, really appreciate. So they would anticipate using both books together. The orchestra curriculum is asking to adopt habits of a successful middle-level string musician and habits of a successful string musician. There are no really good warm-up books that are available in the orchestra programs right now, either at the middle school or the high school. High school has a very old series that we've used and are ready to move on to a better series. But we want to make sure that there is a series that allows some continuation between the middle school into the high school and, of course, across all the schools, and this series would allow us to do that. Choir is looking at adopting Hal Leonard's Voices in Concert. This is a set of books that would be at all the middle schools and the high schools. They come in a set of, I believe it's 65 books in a set, as well as a digital component with a license for 7 years. These are used in a classroom, but what's unique about this is this does contain a performance part of the book where the students and the ensembles can perform out of these books. Music in Theory and Practice and Finale are software and textbooks that are used in Harmony class, and Central would like to adopt those for their use. That is what secondary music is looking at adopting, and I would be happy to answer any questions you have at the moment.
Any questions? Go ahead, Dr. Lund.
Well, and maybe this is for Amy or even Brandon, but I assume if you're talking about buying these books, it's not an even distribution over 7 years. There's probably a lot up front at the beginning with the book adoptions and less cost as you get to year 4, 5, 6, 7. Am I correct in that thought?
Yes. All of these for music would be a one-time purchase and then going forward. So if you look, maybe it's just easier if we go to the next slide. For example, for the library one, there's a cost per year because they're going to get that ELBA allocation every year, where these music books is this slide, one-time fee. We had quite a conversation because actually the chorus one, that price, if we did a payment plan with them where we paid it out over the 7 years, it was actually $100,000 more. So the one-time fee, if our budget can sustain it, is definitely the way to go with these music resources.
Thank you.
Question?
I feel like I don't really understand the band or the chorus. So it's been eons that I've been in band, but so they would stay in the room, right? And be available for students, and then you use them year over year versus what you talked about at the beginning with the Hal Leonard individual book that a student would purchase to do individual lessons.
That is correct. These books would probably stay in the classroom or in the students' folders that they would use in their class, in the classroom setting. They're not materials that would go home.
And the same with the Hal Leonard's Voices in Concert, like that's something that a student could have at their music stand, or, hold in their hand?
Yes, that's correct. Yes.
Okay.
Can you talk about why the course curriculum is significantly larger in price than band and orchestra?
I believe so, yes. The digital component, I think, is a big portion of that, having a 7-year license in order that goes along with that book. The book is actually physically substantially larger. With the other books, we are looking at something paperback that's really quite thin. These books, those choir books, are really quite large and contain a large volume of music in them. I'd also know they come in a set, so in order to ensure that every student has a copy in a choir that may consist of 50, 60, maybe 70 students, we're buying multiple sets per school.
And this would be middle school and high school?
It would be both middle schools and high schools, yes. All the middle schools and high schools would like to adopt this.
And currently with the, you said like the ensemble, or like the performances, I can't remember the word you used, but like there's a component for that. Is there not currently?
They have a series that is similar in nature right now that they do use in performance, especially with some of the younger groups.
Okay.
I know some of the teachers I've talked to have said they'll perform several times a year out of that book.
Okay.
When we were looking at paying, could we pay overtime, save our budget a little? The online component of that chorus curriculum, if I'm remembering correctly, was $14,000 a year if purchased independently. So I think that's why that number is significantly higher. It has that digital component that's ever changing and allows both student and teacher access, which the band, orchestra, harmony, and piano do not have that digital access.
Go ahead, Dr. Lund.
Well, Jeff, nobody can claim that you're using your leadership position to pad the orchestra curriculum when you look at those numbers. So thank you for your honesty.
Any other questions? So we're not going to take a vote on this today, but we'll bring this to the board the next time for a vote. So.
Correct. Okay. If there are no further questions, we'll say thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on, we have the Cybersecurity and Computer Science Integration Plan.
I'm back. So my other friend tonight is Mr. Eric Ripley, Executive Director of CTE and Technology. So we've had the privilege to work together on cybersecurity. Go here. So just like what we talked about before, this doesn't happen in isolation. So when the legislature passed some new laws around cybersecurity and what is expected within school districts, we had the privilege of pulling together a team that would create our integration plan that is required by the state. So these are the names of the people who put in that extra effort to help us do the work, and we really appreciate their expertise. So as we look at the integration plan, which is required by law, the steps that we've taken are multifaceted. First, it's that committee. We had to do a deep dive into what does Century Code require of Grand Forks Public Schools. We scoured DPI guidance to ensure that we were meeting the expectations of the state. And then we also looked at how do we create a plan that meets our needs and fits Grand Forks Public Schools. We also engaged our content teachers in math, ELA, science, and social studies. If you look at the cybersecurity standards, a number of them are disciplinary standards, meaning they also meet content within ELA, math, science, and social studies, as well as cybersecurity. So they did a crosswalk for us. So for example, the math teachers went through them and said, we cover this set of standards in our math core classes. And then the last prong of this approach is to work with you tonight. The law requires you to approve an integration plan for cybersecurity standards.
Yeah. So in the Legislative Assembly, the 68th Legislative Assembly of last session, there in the bill language, there's multiple dates that kind of need to be aware of. And so the next few slides will talk about what about this current school year? What are the expectations? What about next school year? And what about the following school year? This current effective school year, really the law required in Century Code that we offer computer science. Didn't mean that it was required, just meant it had to be available for students. And we're specifically talking about high school level elective coursework, which we were already meeting that. We have a number of courses within our information technology program that met the expectations for the current 23-24 school year. Okay, but starting next year, the district has to start working and putting into effect this integration plan that we're referencing. And so the scope becomes larger. It's not just high school. What are we doing to ensure that middle school students have access to computer science, cybersecurity? They use the change, when I say they, DPI, the Legislative Assembly, use those terms kind of interchangeably. So you'll see it as computer science and cybersecurity. And so we use those terms kind of interchangeably. At the middle school level, what are we doing to ensure that they have access, the students, to the standards that are set forth there? And the same at the elementary level. What are we doing to ensure that students have access to the entry-level computer science cybersecurity standards? So again, those are the expectations next school year, which is why we're approving the integration plan this school year for rolling into next year. Right now, if you take a unit of computer science at the high school level, you can substitute that. That's already something that was in law for one of the existing science requirements. So computer science can substitute, let's say, required physical science or biology for high school graduation requirements. However, in 25-26, you have to have at least a unit of computer science as a high school graduation requirement. So again, this goes into effect July 31st of 2025. So it's not next year's seniors, right? It's not the following year's seniors, or it would be. It would be that. Yeah, thank you. Getting my dates right. So they'll have to have a unit of computer science. Or the bill indicates they have to complete elements of the district's integration plan. And the integration plan that we're going to present to you tonight is a little bit of what is happening naturally in our core courses and how are we covering those standards that are outside of the core courses. And that is an acceptable substitution for the requirement of having every student complete a unit of computer science. And when we use the term unit, that references one full credit. So a year-long course. The committee to talk a little bit about would we want to require every student in high school to take a full credit course bearing of computer science, cybersecurity. There's some logistical challenges with that, from staffing, number of students that we have at our two campuses. I think there's also a philosophical approach of trying to find the balance between what kids want to take and what they have to take. And so we are choosing and recommending the integration plan, where we're not requiring a full credit of computer science. We're going to accomplish covering those standards in a different way.
So the first area that we'll look at is elementary. And just like Tracy Whelan told you before, each student receives 60 minutes a week in the Library Media Center. And during that time, the library media specialists reviewed the cybersecurity standards, and they really reflected and said, actually, we teach the majority of these already in our digital literacy parts of our media curriculum. So what we're going to do is continue to integrate those priority standards into our library media class, and that's how our K-5 students will receive their cybersecurity computer science instruction.
Yeah, I'll talk a little bit about middle school and high school. At the secondary level, at middle school, we require right now every middle school student to complete a scope and sequence of coursework, not only in tech and engineering and computer applications, but art and music and that exploratory middle school concept. But specific to middle school, students right now are required to complete coursework in 6th grade in a class called Computer Science for Innovators and Makers, in grade 7 in tech and engineering, and in 8th grade in both computer applications and tech and engineering. And all of those courses utilize the Project Lead the Way curriculum, which you may have heard that term used before. And so certainly the scope and sequence of that content covers the standards at the middle school level, and it's already an existing structure that we have in place for each student. And then at the high school level, this is where we get into the combination. So this is probably where we spent the committee the most time, talking about those standards that are naturally covered by our core courses, math, science, English, social studies, even we looked into health. Are there any topics covered there? Because those are all required classes for students. and then what falls outside of that. And there are really two big standard areas outside in computer science, cybersecurity. It wasn't naturally being covered in the categories of technology systems, which is a little bit more IT-based, information technology-based, hardware troubleshooting, network difficulties, and then in the area of digital citizenship. So those are the two standards that were not, I would say, naturally being covered. And so what the committee is proposing is that there is an online asynchronous course developed from free resources, a lot of resources out there from code.org, Cisco Skills for All, Iverify, put together an asynchronous course that we would ask our freshmen to complete sometime during their summer before their 9th grade year to summer before their 10th grade year. That would be an expectation. It's not a credit-bearing course. It would not be a 75-hour course. We're thinking probably more in that 20 to 25 hours of content time. The idea would be is that the students then are utilizing that asynchronous experience to cover the standard areas that aren't naturally being covered in math, science, social studies, and ELA. The expectation would be is, well, what happens if a 9th grader doesn't complete this asynchronous course? Then they would be required to complete one of the courses that's up on the screen that are approved by DPI for meeting the computer science, cybersecurity expectations sometime between their 10th, 11th, and 12th grade year. So all these courses are available to students at Red River and Central. They're all elective courses right now. Some of them are a semester, most are. Robotics is a year-long course. And again, we talked about the state could just say, just have everybody take a full credit of computer science. We feel completion of one of these semester courses, which is a little bit more technology system based, in combination again with what's being naturally covered in their core courses, that is our integration plan. And so that would be kind of the carrot for the 9th graders to complete this asynchronous course. Otherwise, we want to ensure that they are still covering those standards if they choose not to complete the course. And I'll let Ms. March talk about the next steps.
And so really, I'll go back to the slide 2. We also, part of being choice ready, the credit that you get for being choice ready is having students complete an online or asynchronous course. So it also helps us demonstrate that our students are choice ready prior to graduation.
Yeah, and I should say, in Choice Ready, it indicates that as an essential skill, students are completing an online course. It doesn't define course by number of hours, credits, or things of that nature. They just indicate they complete a course. We feel like the asynchronous module that we're proposing meets both requirements for integration plan and the requirement for Choice Ready.
Any questions for us? Go ahead, Dr. Lund.
Just a quick one. In looking at the team, most of them look parents, but they're also all district employees. Did you talk to just some plain old parents out there as to what they thought about all of a sudden their kid having to do a 25-hour course that they don't get credit for? What parents might think about that?
I think it was mostly just of our group. We talked a lot about how do we support. So for example, Dr. Arison gave an example of if we get to the winter break and students at the freshman level are not showing progress in that course, he said an idea would be he could use his classroom specialist on early release days to stay from that 1 to 4 time, supervise those kids, give them a little motivation and a little help and focus to get that course completed. So we talked more about the strategies that we can employ to remove some of those barriers.
I'm just thinking, when I was that age, if I got something offered asynchronously, I wouldn't get it done till like June 30th. I mean, I would just procrastinate and stuff. We just have to make sure. I think the parents I don't disagree with this plan. I like it. We just have to make sure the parents are understanding that, well, if this doesn't happen at this date, then your child will have to take a semester class sometime.
Yeah, both Mr. Strandell and Dr. Arison talked about how they can use that one day where freshmen are in the building kind of by themselves. And this would be part of that when we come together in the auditorium to talk about this requirement, what it looks like, how we can support you, and then also what is your responsibility. I think a natural, not consequence maybe isn't the right word, but if you're unable to get yourself through that, even with the supports provided, then we go to another level of support, which is here's your list of courses, which one would you like to take?
So I'm remembering the recent reductions that we did, and there was a computer science position eliminated, I believe. If I'm correct on that, let's answer that question first.
You're correct on that, yeah.
So if so, how did that fit into all of this? Is that, my first thought was, is that why the standards are integrated? Because now you don't have a position? Is that why you're going to an asynchronous online course?
Sure. I can answer that a little bit. So right now, all these courses that row up on the screen, they're all elective based. And so based off of the student registration numbers for next year did not support having the full 2 FTEs in that. That's the reason why that was on the list for a reduction. If we decided we wanted to require students to take coursework on one of those, that obviously would elevate the numbers. And so could there be a request coming back at some point to bring that? Potentially. It depends what percentage of our 9th grade students are going to not complete the asynchronous course first time going through. That's kind of a ballpark number to try to figure out what that might look like.
Of course, my mind always goes to EL or ML learners as well. And so I would assume that, the supports would come from the ML teachers and instructors. But we just heard from the elementary side of things that attendance is difficult, getting kids. So then you're putting, again, the onus on parents and kids to do it out, basically not as part of a structured day. And so.
I think one of the other structure supports that's being worked on, and we piloted right now this quarter at Red River High School, is the response intervention, where they have, they call it rider time on Tuesdays and Thursdays, where there's dedicated time where specific student groups can be pulled and go to specific instructors. And this could be another area where if there's 9th graders that are struggling or perhaps need some additional supports, that group specifically can be pulled out and worked on those Tuesdays and Thursdays, again, to work through this content. We want to find the balance between what's a realistic expectation for in an asynchronous module, and at the same time, if it's too onerous, then again that balance of where does the responsibility fall? Then is it more of a challenge than anything? So you're exactly right to be considering that. We're trying to again strike that balance as the community. I think we've reached a good spot with that.
Another thing that you may consider is this approach allows more flexibility rather than telling a student they can't take aviation or they can't take French 3 or they can't take BARM because they're trying to fit it in their schedule. This approach allows for more flexibility to be able to do the asynchronous course. If you are unable to complete it, even with supports, then we'll put you in courses as you go through to make sure that you meet that requirement. Because whether we agree or not, it's part of the law that is now required for graduation.
I have 2 questions. A mandate by the state sometimes comes with money and sometimes doesn't. In this case, was there any extra funding for this mandate?
So they offered some free courses that teachers could take, but there wasn't additional funding for staffing, curricular resources, other materials.
Okay. And then do you see any demand, knowing that computer science could be an elective general course in college as part of the general requirements? Do you see any demand for dual credits for this topic?
Yeah, that question is a great question because it came out on the state's listserv just last week talking a little bit about the university system having an expectation on for computer science as part of their program. And would there be courses developed at that level that could be provided to high school students in the form of a dual credit? I think that there is opportunities for that. We haven't seen what the university system is going to release in terms of their computer science requirements, and then to crosswalk that with then the computer science cybersecurity standards that are right now existing at K-12. And so I think that might be the question. So, but that exact question was posed last week and had a lot of conversation from other districts as well.
Okay. My last comment is I've really appreciated the amount of digital literacy that my child gets at the elementary level, just seeing the seesaw and the engagement on there. I think it's such a cool thing to talk to students about how to use the online world in a responsibly safe way. And so I've appreciated that as a parent and being able to see that. So thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll now move on to the Finance Committee report. Brandon?
Yes, Chairperson Flynn, members of the board. The Finance Committee met just last week on May 6th and really discussed two topics. This is summarized on the memo that I had put together on electronic page 61 of your board packet. The first of the two was relative to Valley Middle School. Back on February 26th, the board provided or approved a guaranteed maximum price of $44,584,000 and a few dollars for the construction of the new Valley Middle School. This, with soft costs, bring the total budget of that just under $53 million. And in fact, that was kind of a ceiling set, knowing that there would be some additional work on alternates that would come back to this committee. So this was the meeting where those alternates had been designed for and brought back to the committee. All told, the results of those, and they are listed as a part of the bid form, which is electronic page 64 of the packet, in bright yellow near the bottom, in case you're wondering what they are. But the results of that came that the guaranteed maximum price of the project, or the construction portion of that, was reduced by just over $600,000. And the overall cost or anticipation for the project will be a reduction of nearly $500,000. So that project right now is anticipated to cost $52,258,000. So that's under the original budget we had set at $55 million, which is an exciting result and a great place to be at. I'll just run through the second one here as well, and then of course our Buildings and Grounds Director, Jonathan Elwine's here too. I'm happy to answer any questions as well. The second topic that was discussed was a financial update relative to the Career Impact Academy. This was due to some time had passed since that project had been brought back to Finance Committee. There's certainly a lot of activity on the site, so we walked through just some images of what's really taking place on that site. If you haven't been by there, it's worth the drive. It's exciting times to see that go up. But since the last time we had gone to the Finance Committee with an update, there'd been a lot of work done around the New Markets Tax Credit Program, which had a successful closing at the end of March. And so the big story of this line was to report back that ultimately, due to that program and a successful closing, another $1.9 million were brought towards that project. And then also was discussed that there still remains a gap in that project, so the work doesn't stop. In fact, we are aligned to pursue additional allocation through that New Market Tax Credit Program. We think that there's a solid chance of reducing that gap even further. Again, this is accompanied by a number of attachments here with a lot more information, so happy to answer any questions. B&G Director, Mr. Elwine's here, and then of course any committee members who would have anything to add.
Any questions? Go ahead.
What happens with the contingency fund now? In other words, the set aside that's the district set aside, does that go away? Does that go back into the fund, or does that still have to be continued in case there's some cost overrun during construction?
Oh, just what's held, so through your project budget, you generally will be a couple different contingency buckets held when you pass that guaranteed maximum price. So the construction dollars, there's a construction contingency. That's the responsibility of the builder should things come up. And then there's that owner contingency there too. And yes, if you don't use it, that belongs to the owner and it never gets built into that project. So in these prices I've reported, the owner's contingency is reflected in there. But with a successful build, and so far we're off on the right step with the weather in our favor, we can hopefully not use that. And that comes right back into the overall project. Of course, what actually happens through the financing here is the voters have approved up to $79 million. You can't go any more than that, but you can certainly go less than that. So there'll be decisions if we come under, which would be a great day, on just what you do with any excess amount or any amount below $79 million.
And maybe I'm just not understanding, but with the bidding being completed and stuff, where would the owner's contingency be used if it's already been bid? And maybe between the two of you can explain that to me.
Yeah, there would be discretionary decisions, something that might come up, and there might be some, if you want to provide examples, but there can be color choices or things that change along the process. Hey, we we knew that was coming in because the contractor bid that, but turns out it's not available any longer. Here's a comparable product. Would you like to go here or here? And so there'll be owner decisions along the way.
Yes, and to add on to what Mr. Baumbach has said, excuse me, you're always going to want to carry a contingency. Even though we came in under, we still want to carry that extra amount of money in case we run into unexpected things. And he talked about options, or we could run into things like, okay, we can't get these windows, or maybe you want this different type of window that's going to cost you an extra $40,000, but it's going to be X amount better. And we can kind of, if you look at your bid sheet, one of the rejected, the design, basis of design mechanical equipment, that was the one we rejected. But that was an example of, hey, they brought it to me and I said, yes, this is better, but it's not, $270,000 better, so we're going to reject that. But there are things like that that could come throughout the project that we may make decisions to carry, to move into the owner contingency. And just to clarify, while the construction contingency is part of the GMP, the owner's contingency is separate. So especially anything over the $50,000 threshold that the Finance Committee and this board has given Mr. Baumbach and myself the authority to approve will come directly to this group.
Other questions? I chuckled a little bit when you said color changes, because when we were building our house, like light gray costs less than smoke show. So, you're it's just kind of funny how those things work there. So, any other questions for finance? There's no action on this one, just discussion. Okay. It's nice to see the costs continue to go down, but I probably just want to remind everyone that that's an anomaly, not a per usual, but seems like we got in at the right time and have the right people working on the project. So thank you. Okay. Next item on our agenda is the consent agenda. Do I have a motion for approval? Motion by Bill. Is there a second? Second by Dr. Lund. Take a roll call vote, please.
Larson?
Yes.
Lund?
Yes.
Berger?
Yes.
Manley?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
Palmasino?
Yes.
Shab?
Yes.
And Flynn?
Yes.
And there was one absent on that, so 8 yes, 0 no, and 1 absent.
Motion carries. Now move on to item B, Assistant Superintendent Matt Baki's 2024-2025 contract.
Thank you, Madam President. Page 87 of your electronic packet, you have a memo from me. And as you may recall, Assistant Superintendent Matt Baki joined the school district in August of 2023. As his transition out of his previous superintendency took a bit longer than anticipated. So as a result, Mr. Baki was offered a prorated one-year contract for us for the 23-24 school year. And all other contracted employees received a negotiated 2-year contract with a second year equating to a 5% increase. Given the above, I'm recommending a 2024-25 contract for Mr. Baki with a 5% increase over his salary from 2023-24 equating to $182,450. This amount also includes an education factor of $2,900, which could change when Mr. Baki finishes his doctorate.
Any questions? Do we have a motion for approval? Go ahead.
Remind me, and I should have taken the time to look this up, what was, and I know that administrators are different than teachers, what was the teacher percentage, please?
I want to say it was 8% in year 1, 5% in year 2. Thank you, Brandon.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
I move approval of the contract as outlined.
Motion by Dr. Lund. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Joel. Take a roll call vote.
Lund?
Yes.
Berger?
Yes.
Palmasino?
Yes.
Larson?
Yes.
Manley?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
Gockler is absent. Shab?
Yes.
Flynn?
Yes.
8 yes, 0 no, 1 absent.
Motion carries. Now move on to item C, consideration of request for proposals for high school events streaming. Brandon?
Yeah, Chairperson Flynn, members of the board, just as Mike, our activities director, Mike Biermeyer, makes his way to the microphone, I'll just say a couple opening comments here. This is really innovative thinking. There's been certainly a lot of conversation around budgets just recently, and because we control so little of the revenue side, it's often focused on the expenditure side. And here, Activities Director Biermeyer is really doing some work to try to think about the revenue side as much as we can. And I'd say that's not an anomaly. It's just we have fewer opportunities to do that. So I'll let him introduce this one, and I'm happy to stand for any questions, but I think he's taking our lead.
All right, well, I think,
There you go.
now it's on?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Sorry about that. So I think this is just an exciting opportunity. I want to let you know that I've been thinking about this and wanting to do something like this for quite a few years. We have a product in our games that we know people want. It has value. For a long time, and thank you, radio stations have been broadcasting our games. And to be honest, they make a fair amount of money off of that. We don't charge them for doing that at all. TV broadcast has been able to come in and do that too. Now we have live streaming, which we do on, multiple different forms. So they're kind of, radio and streaming is kind of starting to merge, but we saw this a long time ago as a chance for us to possibly tap in for some revenue. And I'm not gonna think that we're talking massive amounts of money, but I think any little bit counts when you think about overall budget, no matter what, even in activities. So what we're doing is with this RFP is we want to put out there, since we're not the experts, we don't know what, I do know that media, radio have an interest in doing our games. We know that. After I've spoken over many years to different radio stations, they have an interest in saying, yeah, we understand, we could pay you for your games. So what we're asking is to go out to those media sources for a plan. And this is not an exclusive plan that we're going to pick one radio station or one media that's going to do all of our streaming. It's a plan to say, how could we put this forward? What are you going to get from us, and what are we going to get from you? I envision it as being like, we can call them rate cards, where I think my plan that I would like to see, and that we put in the RFP, is I would like to see a minimum of about 25, 26 games, because that's going to cover all of our Central Red River rivalry games. And we have some sports that media is not willing to pick up right now. This would be a way for us to expose all of our sports, and not even sports, we can dive into other activities too that we want to talk about. But I look at the rate card as having a minimum, so we don't just have a company coming in saying, we'll do one game of yours. No, we want a relationship. So I'd like to see them put a rate card for a minimum of 25 games and another level of 75 games, which is a good percentage of our activities right now. So really exploring a little bit of information that I've been able to gather over the years from radio stations and TV stations on what they would possibly do. So now we hit that point of, all right, let's find out. Let's put it out there and see what kind of plan that could come forward. So that's kind of where we're at this point.
That's perfect. And so what you'll see in the memo here is an articulation of an RFP process. And we're looking for proposals because it's exactly as described. So that's why it falls under action. We'd like to get your input, any feedback, approve us to move forward with this. And of course, once we get those bids back, or those responses back, we'll bring them to the board for consideration.
Question?
I've talked too much, it's dead. You briefly mentioned it, but I just wanted to ask, and maybe this is your thinking down future things. I saw only sports, and I realize music, theater, well, spa we charge, but normally we don't charge. I was even thinking graduation, high school graduations, those kinds of things. Is that something you're thinking, let's dip our toe in the water with this, and then maybe looking at expanding down that in future years for these other areas? Because grandma so-and-so might not want to watch football, but she might want to watch her daughter in the theater or something like that. So comment about that.
100%. And I think when we get going on this, I also envision, back in my previous school district, we started a class where we were teaching kids how to handle streaming like this. They took care of the setup, the camera work. We didn't have anybody wanting to do play-by-play, or even at prom or graduation, there was no audio really necessarily there. But I envision our kids being able to take over some of those events and saying, yep, we have a music event, we have a play, there's certain considerations we have to have with rights and everything else. But absolutely, we want to be able to stream as many events as we possibly can. Maybe not all of them are going to be built into this rate card where you have the play-by-play and other expenses involved, but part of this RFP is for this media to bring our kids on board and have them help learn, and we can extend that out to other events. So we can envision it even further down the road as an actual class where we have kids doing play-by-play, replays, going into graduation, we're going to get every kid's picture up there real quick. Just an amazing amount of things that we could do that I think we've experienced already.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
I have a question on the evaluation criteria. Just the question would be, why the gap of 25 games or events with a preferred 75 number schedule? And I'm thinking about swimming in there too, because they're not games. But why did you decide 25 and 75? Seems like a lot, that's a big gap, or big number to be trying to evaluate the different ones.
I think we should look at it as the minimum number that I would like a proposal for is 25. Anywhere between 25 and 75 would probably be that rate, but you would get a better rate when you approach 75. The more games we can do, the better, in my opinion. So I don't think there's a natural necessarily major cutoff there or why there's a big gap. I'm not sure how to answer that completely, other than my point with that is I'd prefer not to have a media come in and say, I'm going to do 2 games, and that's it.
The reason that I was asking is, if you've got one request that says I can do 25 and you've got another that says I can do 75, I think that's going to be harder to measure, to evaluate, just because it's 25, it's a big number, the difference between 25 and 75. That's all I was thinking of.
Okay.
Versus 2 to 25. I don't know. It was more of a question. I don't have the answer. I don't, but just wondering.
Where I picked the numbers and didn't really necessarily understand or think about the large gap in there, I kind of went selfishly. I want 25 games. Actually, the number is 26 when I counted how many rivalry games we have, if that's just a minimum. And then I went and said, okay, look at how many home games do we have? How many events could they possibly do? And I came up with a third of our events. That would be the next break. So you're going to get one rate to do 25 to 75. You're going to get a better rate if you do 75 or more. And hopefully we'll be able to evaluate them accordingly.
Is there another school that's doing this?
Selling this? Yeah. I reached out to Matt Fetch at the North Dakota High School Association, and if I get my towns right, I believe Bismarck is selling or is going to, and Jamestown's looking at it. Keep in mind, there are a lot of schools out there that want their events streamed, and they're paying for it. Because it does cost some work too. I looked at small colleges around us, especially used to be called the Northern Sun. Is it still the Northern Sun? Crookston? NSIC? The majority of those schools are paying to have radio and streaming. And this is an opportunity, I think, that, as I've found out, we should get some good rate cards back, some good plans. But it is, as you ask, is there a lot of schools doing this? No, there's not. So we're kind of, I don't want to say we're on the cutting edge of it, but we're doing something that not a lot of people do. So I don't have a whole lot of, hey, I'm going to glean some information from this school and this school, and then we have a better idea of what to do. We're kind of going at it on our own.
Does this include away games?
This does not include away games.
Okay, so this would only be for any home games?
Right.
Okay.
And
then-
again, an emphasis I want to say is that it doesn't exclude anybody from doing this. If we had 2 radio stations or media that wanted to do 50 games, they can still do that. It's just saying, here's what you get, here's what we get, and here's the rate. And it doesn't exclude TV, it doesn't exclude radio, those are all separate. Kind of built that philosophy off of what the High School Association does with their state tournaments and their regional tournaments, and that's where I get the word rate card. Kind of got some information from them.
If a radio station or a TV station collects advertisement during their broadcast, would they retain those dollars then?
They would retain those dollars.
Okay.
Just like radio and TV does right now, those are theirs.
Okay.
And this is a way for us to kind of tap into that. We looked at percentages of some things like that. It gets a little murky there. Again, based it off of High School Association, a few years of doing this, and then they went with a rate card, so much money per game that you do.
But then it puts the onus of collecting advertisements on the media partners.
Correct.
Because of the more breadth of games that they're doing too. Okay.
I feel there are some schools, maybe in bigger metropolitan areas, that are doing this all on their own, and they're out there selling the ads. And I really feel that let's leave that up to the experts. You know, I want to be able to teach our kids also, incorporate that educational piece in the future on getting into broadcasting. So that's kind of where I'm at with, let's let them handle the advertising of it.
Sure. Okay. Go ahead, Josh.
First off, I just want to say I really appreciate the piece in including students into the production piece of it. I really appreciate that, so thank you for that, bringing that forward. Second off, would, so 25 to 75, and maybe I missed it here, how would those be chosen? You know, if you get past that 26 rivalry games, now you have to choose up to the 75. Is there a process you would take to choose what games those are? How would you assure fair representation across all sports, girls, boys, all of that kind of stuff?
Yeah, now I understand where you're going with that. Yes. So with my building athletic directors, Tony, Tyler, we've talked about that and making sure that we have that equity piece. That's a big part of this, making sure that some of our students that don't necessarily get the traditional exposure, that we're getting that. Even some of the tough things to do. I mean, if you go into an auditorium, it's pretty easy to put up a camera. How about doing the border battle cross country? You know, that's going to be more difficult, but as we talked about it, you can have 3 cameras. We could potentially have a drone, get some of exposure that way. So definitely equity is part of this to make sure we're spread across all aspects of it. And like we talked, we're kind of dipping our toe in it with sports because I think it's just an easier sell right now, but the grand scheme is to be much broader.
Thank you. Any other questions? Ryan, go ahead.
I'm just thinking out loud, but you mentioned a lot of like Grand Forks Red River rivalry games. So the funds that we make off of those games would be used for future like Grand Forks sponsored activities like within the schools, correct?
Yeah, I got to look at our money man here. Yeah. So, well, we don't have a whole lot of revenue coming in the athletic department. And this is one source that we would bring in to offset some of those other costs. And I would think of it as some more of our specialty costs.
Okay, and that leads me into like my question would be, you know, we'd have like this past year Grand Forks Central and Fargo North in the North Dakota State Football Championship. That'd be a game that both Grand Forks could benefit off of if we were to hire people to broadcast that game, but also a lot of money that Fargo could benefit off of. Just wondering if Fargo wanted to tap into that, would that be something that would be split between Grand Forks and Fargo? Like, I'm just because there's a lot of money in that game and like hockey tournaments, state hockey. If other schools wanted to tap into that money, because it'd be a pretty profitable game.
Well, one thing is when I think of some other games that are profitable, but we do have to say that when we get into the tournaments, we don't own those. Those are owned by either East Region out of Fargo or owned by this state. But we do have plenty of those other games that you're talking about that I think here, even we have East Side that likes to come in here for, basketball and hockey. We have some other rivals that aren't part of the end of season tournament that I think the revenue is going to be, we may have 2 or 3 radio stations that are willing to do a bunch of those kind of games. So I think what you're getting at is how are we going to split that money up? Does it come to our coffers? And again, that equity piece is going to come in for specialty items. But I think that tapping into these revenue rivalry games is going to be the first place that we're going to be looking with these media companies.
Go ahead, Maggie.
I just have a clarifying question. So is it the revenue that's coming in is just from the people who would want to broadcast the radio and TV, or is it the people that want to view the games in the community that are paying?
Very good point. Part of the RFP that I'm a real stickler on is they will not charge the viewers.
Okay.
They're putting in a great production. I've already gone down that road with some streaming back when it was COVID, and when you don't put a high quality production out there, I get the phone calls from grandmas and everyone else, and my dad calling me and why can't I watch the game? So I'm very clear on that they're not going to be charging the viewers. This is only the advertising money that's coming in.
Okay, thank you.
You just made me think of, we're all adults, and I would hope that everyone would be respectful in their commentary, but at the end of the day, these people aren't employed by Grand Forks Public Schools. So is there any clause or anything in here that would say, if someone said something out of line during a radio broadcast, how is that monitored, discussed? Maybe something that was problematic.
I wonder
Even if it was an accident.
Right. In our media relations policy, it talks, I'm just kind of wondering about this. It talks about the type of advertisement that you can do. It talks about your conduct. Maybe that's something that is in that I can't quite say, but part of the RFP is that they need to follow that policy that we do have.
Okay.
Good point, though.
Thank you. Okay. Any other questions? Okay, I'll seek a motion for approval then. Nope, it's under action. Further consideration of request for proposal. So they would do the request for proposals and then it would come back and we'd vote. Okay, motion by Josh, is there a second? Second by Bill. Any more discussion? Okay, we'll take a roll call vote, please.
Berger?
Yes.
Manley?
Yes.
Larson?
Yes.
Schab?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
Palmasino?
Yes.
Lund?
Yes.
Gockler is absent. Flynn?
Yes,
8 yes, 0 no, 1 absent.
motion carries. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Before we move on, just in case board members want to look at this before the June piece, all of those policies were just referenced are your KB policies. So KBA is relations with the media, KBA-BR1, relations with the news media regulation, KBA-BR2, sports and special events media coverage. So just to bring some background back to those discussions.
Okay. We're now on to consideration of bids for wood chip envelope restoration.
Thank you, President Flynn, and thank you to the board. Earlier this, I believe it was about a month ago, I brought forth the project scope and the DPI paperwork to the board for approval, and today we come with the bids. If I could point to electronic packet page number 94, that's the beginning of the bid sheet. And As you can see, we put it out for bids in accordance with Century Code 48012, and we received one bid from Innis Construction and deemed it responsible. This project came in about 5% above what we expected, which was driven entirely by the cost of glazing, which was not surprising as that has been the most volatile and hardest to predict procurement item within buildings at this point. If you go to page 96 on the electronic packet, it kind of gives you a breakdown that's a little easier to read than the bid sheet. And it shows the different aspects of this project, including the general construction, the window replacement. The east side canopy we had as an alternate simply because we didn't know what point of the safety and security referendum we would be in, so that is a portion of that, so we didn't want to double work, but it looks like it's going to be delayed a little bit. And then building signage was a big one that I requested just to get new signage on the building, the kind of the pinboard lettering to make it look more like a school. So really what I'm asking for, the administrative recommendation is to approve Innis Construction as a contractor for the Winship Elementary envelope restoration for $430,200 and to add an owner contingency of $21,510 for a total project cost of $451,710. And before I go to questions, I will just point to electronic packet 95. You can see unit prices for damaged exterior sheathing as well as the replacement of bad insulation, and that's really what that contingency is for. In case we open up a wall, we find a bunch of wet insulation, okay, now we can replace it. That's within our budget still. You have any questions?
Go ahead.
Where's the glazing within this bid?
It would be window replacement.
So what does glazing mean, please?
Just glass. It's just an industry term.
Just like envelope, that's a weird term, like they're going to staff the mailroom or what, but it's
Envelope
an actual
goes outside.
term, yeah.
It goes outside the letter.
I don't know all these outside terms. Go ahead.
And just one thing here too, I'm sure Jonathan can explain more too. We've been doing a lot of construction manager at risk mechanisms, so CMARs, and that gives a number that if they go over, it's their responsibility, and this is a single prime. It's a different relationship just a little bit, so we work together to make sure that if something's discovered, we're paying for that, but we're making decisions on how far they go into that project, et cetera.
Okay. Other questions from board members? Okay, do I have a motion for approval? Motion by Jeff, is there a second? Second by Dr. Shab. Take a roll call vote, please.
Anderson?
Yes.
Palmesino?
Yes.
Lund?
Yes.
Shab?
Yes.
Manley?
Yes.
Larson?
Yes.
Berger?
Yes.
Gockler is absent. Flynn?
Yes.
8 yes, 0 no, 1 absent.
Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Now on to policy review. Dr. Shab?
Well, tonight is a night of second reading, so I would expect that this will go pretty quickly. So I'd make a motion to adopt the following policies as written or amended. DEAD, staff use of electronic devices, sportsmanship, classified staff growth and evaluation process as written, the board meeting agenda and pre-meeting preparation, designated medical provider for work-related injury, reviewing complaints of instructional resource material, fundraising as written, and PTO booster groups, replacing policy 3230. Motion to approve those on second reading.
Second.
Motion by Dr. Shab, second by Dr. Lund. Is there any discussion? Take a roll call vote, please.
Shab?
Yes.
Palmesino?
Yes.
Manley?
Yes.
Lund?
Yes.
Larson?
Yes.
Gockler is absent. Berger?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
Flynn?
Yes.
8 yes, 0 no, 1 absent.
Motion carries.
I'd make a motion to complete the board regulation procedure for reviewing complaints about instructional resource material.
there a second? Motion by Dr. Shab, second by Dr. Lund. Any discussion? Let's see. We'll take a roll call vote.
Palmasino?
Yes.
Berger?
Yes.
Lund?
Yes.
Shab?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
Manley?
Yes.
Larson?
Yes.
Gockler absent. Flynn?
Yes.
8 yes, 0 no, 1 absent.
Motion carries.
Having just approved those second readings, I will now make a motion to rescind classified staff growth and evaluation process, 4,200, and booster groups, 3,230.
Is there a second? Motion by Dr. Shab, second by Bill. Any discussion? Take a roll call vote, please.
Lund?
Yes.
Manley?
Yes.
Larson?
Yes.
Berger?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
Shab?
Yes.
Palmasino? Gockler's absent. Flynn?
Yes.
8 yes, 0 no, 1 absent.
Motion carries. Thank you. Any announcements for the board? Got a lot going on this time of year. Go ahead, Maggie.
Tomorrow is the Cushman Cup for girls soccer, Red River versus Central. So 4:30 to 6:30 in the parking lot. There's free food and games and prizes. So anyone in the community is invited. And then 7 o'clock is the game.
Cool. Thank you. Go ahead.
Maggie, you took one of my two, but thank you for that. Hanson Du, who is a Grand Forks Central student, senior, and Selena Wu, Red River High School senior, are both U.S. presidential scholars. They are 2 out of the 3 total in North Dakota. Congratulations to those 2.
Cool. Other announcements? Okay. Board requests for future consideration. Okay. Jeff, how do we do? School board norms?
We listened to understand, and when we needed more information, we asked questions, and we respected each other and their decisions. So we did superb.
Thank you. Okay. Okay. Motion, no, we're not adjourning yet. So we will move into executive session. Board will stay. Josh, your guests can stay, and then everyone else will exit the room. But I'll move us into the official executive session here.